Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Pilot. I'm going to talk to you today about a still life. Now, a still life is a drawing or a painting or a photograph of anything around an artist. So a lot of times, like you saw in the slideshow about Paul Cezanne and all of his friends, they used to do a lot of fruit. Okay, so fruit is something that a lot of people have around their house, or vegetables or things like that, or even coffee mugs. And they stay still. So an artist can take the material, like this apple, no, it's not real, it's fake, and they can place it in front of them, and when they're ready to draw, they can see the big shapes and it's not going to move or wiggle. So if we were outside and we were drawing a landscape, all of the trees would move in the breeze, and that would be challenging to draw. So one of the reasons that an artist creates a still life like this is so that they can practice their drawing skills. And what we're going to do today is we're going to practice using our observation, our eyes, to draw from observation, which means to draw from looking at the object in front of you. Now, if you don't have any fruits or vegetables at home, you can look at the shapes that I have here, and I'm going to walk you step by step through how to go from something that looks like this to something that looks like this. Okay, I talked to some of you about how we look at shapes in an object. So these are apples, and these apples are big geometric shapes. We can draw these as big circles or maybe like an oval shape. And you're going to notice that around the stem, there's also a little curve here. We have the stem sticking out here, but if you notice, there's going to be this, if I turn my apple sideways, I could draw a curved line right here around to show where the divot is, or the point where the stem is coming. If we looked at this pear, this is again another fake pear, not real. We could break it down into very basic shapes. So if we look at the big shape on the bottom, we could probably draw a big oval and then maybe a smaller oval on top. And again, it has that circle area, this line here that we could draw, and there's a little bit of a curve at the bottom if you were to draw it from that angle. So still lifes can be created with fruit. They could also be created with flowers. So as you saw in the slideshow, Vincent van Gogh liked to paint lots of flowers because, again, they would not move around. We're going to practice using very basic shapes to draw some fruit, but I'm also going to teach you how to make it look like your fruit has a shadow, and that's where the light is being blocked. So if I put my hand in front of my paper, the shadow's underneath because the light's not going through my hand, it's not clear. And then where the light is touching the object or reflecting off of it, bouncing off, that's called a highlight, okay? That's usually up high, and it's the lightest area. So we have our shadow and we have our highlight. So I'm going to look at the fruit, and I'm going to notice that each one is very, very similar. We have big circles. So we're going to take our paper, and a lot of times still lifes can go either way, but most of the time they go landscape on our paper side to side. So I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to make sure my name is on the back, and then I'm going to look very carefully. If you want to practice on one side of your paper first, that's fine, or if you want to practice on a scrap piece of paper, that's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to draw 3 big shapes for our fruit. Now, in my other one, I drew 3 apples, 2 red apples, and a green apple. What I'm going to show you to do is a green apple, a red apple, and a yellow pear. So if you want to just do apples, you can do that, or you can do the pear as well. So I'm going to look at this apple shape. Remember, what I see is a little bit different from what you're seeing at the camera. Okay, so I'm going to look and say, oh, well, this apple is very big oval. So on one side of my paper, I'm going to draw a big oval. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's an apple, right? Then I'm going to look at my other apple and say, oh, well, this one's a little bit skinnier at the bottom. So I'm going to draw that apple down here. Notice I'm drawing them really, really big because that's our focal point. Our focal point is the fruit. Okay, so your fruit is going to be at least the size of the palm of your hand. Now I'm going to look at my pear and say, oh, well, there's 2 shapes here. So maybe I draw my pear on this space here. And I'm going to draw a big oval for the bottom and then a curved line on top like this. Okay, and then I can erase that line right here because we don't need that anymore. And then we talked about how the stems have these little curves around them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 3 curves, one on each piece of fruit, one that looks little C shapes almost. Let me fix that line real quick. And that's where the stem is coming from. Okay, so all I've done is I've drawn my big apple, my medium apple, and my big pear. So now I'm going to draw the stems, and the stems are going to be just, you have to make sure they're shapes. So I'm going to draw them as almost like triangles, upside down triangles, or oval shapes. I'm going to make this one curve a little bit, okay? And I think I'm going to bring this line down just a smidge. There we go. That looks more like a pear, and that's why we always draw with pencil first, so that we can erase anything we don't need. There we go. All right, now most times fruit sits on a plate or a bowl, so we're going to draw something for our fruit to sit on. I'm just going to draw a big oval. It's like it's circling around my fruit. It's not a perfect oval. It's kind of a wibbly wobbly plate, and that's okay. And then I'm going to draw a very simple pattern. I'm just going to draw some straight lines across my paper so that there's something interesting behind my fruit. So I'm going to jump over the plate, and then there's just one little more line down here. And I think I'm going to draw stripes on this. So just a very simple pattern, something interesting behind our fruit because they're going to be more solid colors. And so we want something to be interesting around our fruit as well. So you can see that in this one I'm going to do some stripes, and in this one I did some polka dots, but they were very, very simple. Nothing too complicated. So I'm going to draw some stripes going this way on this one. Oop. Gotta make sure I jump, huh? Now you can outline with black now, or you could wait till the end. I'm going to wait till the end for this one. You can see that the pictures that I put on the PowerPoint or the slideshow have the black outline first. So I'm going to decide that this is going to be the green apple, this is going to be my yellow pear, and this is going to be my red apple. So you just need some crayons. You can do all of this with crayons. You can do it with very basic colors. So I'm just going to take my red, my orange, my yellow, and I'm going to take my green. So I have, these are very basic crayons. Now if you have other colors, if you have like a light green, you could use that, or if you have like, this is a yellow orange, that would be really great for the pear. If you don't have these, I'm going to show you how to do that, but if you do, you can use these as well. So I'm going to do my red apple first, or sorry, my green apple first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that at the bottom I see this really dark area. So I'm going to make sure that I color that area under here, the shadow area, very dark. Okay, and when we color in something that's curved, we're going to make sure that we color it curved, not straight up and down. So I'm going to move these guys out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a shadow underneath my apple, or on the bottom side of my apple, sorry. Okay, so that I'm just going to trace, it's about, just about a third of my apple. And then I'm going to color in this area. See how I'm curving my hand with that line. And I'm almost doing it like a paintbrush. Remember, we hold our pencil, our crayon like our pencil, so that we can control it. And there's my shadow. Okay, so I found my darkest color, and I'm going to add a little bit of shadow in here too. There we go. Now I'm going to do my pear, and my pear is going to be yellows and oranges. So this is going to be all greens and yellows, this is going to be oranges and reds, and this is going to be oranges and or red and yellow a little bit. So I'm going to take my darker one because this is going to be yellow. So my dark value, my dark color is going to be that orange. And again, we're tracing just a little bit down here to add that shadow area. And again, curve it. We don't want our fruit to look flat. So we want to make sure that we curve the coloring. And because pears have that little bump right there, I'm going to make it look, there we go. So my light source, the light in my picture is coming from this direction. So all the light areas are going to be on one side and the shadows are going to be the opposite side. I'm going to add a little bit of dark orange right in here, pressing nice and hard. Now you can always go back and make it darker. So if the first time you did it, it's not dark enough, you can go back and you can fill that in a little bit. I'm going to make a little bit light here. There we go. I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a little bit of light right here too. And that'll help us blend our colors later. So this is going to be my red apple. So I'm going to take my red and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come down here. It's like making a crescent shape. I'm going to press really hard, but I got to go slow so that I don't get out of my apple shape. There we go. Okay, and again, a little bit of shadow in here. Okay, once you've done that, you can go back and add the highlight. Now the highlight on all of them is going to be yellow because that's my lightest color. So what I'm going to do is where the light is touching the object, I'm going to do the same thing but in the light yellow. So I'm going across, diagonal. And then I'm going to make a little zigzag wee to the stem area. Okay, so all I've done is I've curved around the top part of the apple and I did a little bit of zigzag toward the stem. That's going to make this look very round. I'm going to do the same thing on all three of my fruit. Just coloring in the top area with that nice bright yellow. Now if we were painting, we could probably mix white in there. Add a little bit more over here. There. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these big spaces in. So this is going to be a green apple, so you could use your light green crayon if you wanted to, like I did in the other one, but I'm going to show you how to just do it with regular crayons. So if you don't have those, and markers would probably not be a great choice for this. So now I'm going to fill this in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep curving with my apple shape. And this is going to be medium. I'm going to overlap my coloring here just a little bit and curving very carefully. If you have to turn your paper while you work like I'm doing, you can do that. That's absolutely fine. Again, overlapping a little bit. Don't forget behind that stem area. You could always go back and make it darker, right? So I'm going to make some of this a little bit darker so that it's blending in a little bit more. So it's not such a big difference between light green and dark green. There we go, that's a little better. Add layers of crayon. All right, and now we're going to do the same thing to the pear and the apple. Again, pressing soft and curving with the fruit because you can always go back and make it darker. So this is a big circle area. So I made a big circle while I colored. And again, overlap a little bit. Oh, this needs to be a little bit darker down here, I think. What do you think? There we go. Don't forget behind that stem. And yes, we're going to color the stems in. Now I'm going to make this a little bit darker orange because we can always make it darker. But it's really hard to erase crayon. There we go. And then the same with the apple. Now you could add a little bit of orange inside your apple if you wanted, because there's a little bit of orange on this one. There's a little bit of dark. Maybe I go back and add a little bit of red here. That would help that area. So I'm going to continue coloring. And once you're finished coloring in your apples or pears or whatever fruit you're doing, I don't recommend bananas. They get mushy. Go back and make sure that you've done your best coloring. We're going to color in the stems, and then you can color in the background. When you're working on the background colors, I want you to think, use your artistic brain, just like we've practiced, to think about Well, what colors would make green and red and orange stand out? I probably would not use green and red and orange around my fruit. Then they might blend in. But blue or purple would be a good choice because these are lots of warm colors in here. It's really up to you. So in this one, I did my red and my green, and so to make it stand out, I did blue and purple in the background, and I outlined with black. I left the plate white, but you could color it in. I don't think you should color it with a dark color, but maybe with a tan or light gray. That would help make your fruit stand out. So then you can always go back and outline your fruit. Don't forget this curve here, and there we go. And if you wanted to add a shadow underneath each one, you could totally do that. You would use the black crayon. Remember, hold it towards the back and very carefully just add a little bit. Add a little teeny tiny bit underneath. Press nice and soft. I cannot wait until I see all of your beautiful still lifes when we get back. Okay, don't forget to email me if you want to. You can show me your pictures. Okay, have a great day.